Every now and then I like to record a video with a sex tip or a technique that's so profound and so powerful that it can globally change your lovemaking like overnight and immediately make you into a great lover. Now, the bar is set pretty low, as I've mentioned before, on being a great lover. Most men are clueless. We are really not just uninformed, we're disinformed. We're constantly learning the wrong things in terms of what women really want in the bedroom. And sometimes just one little insight, I have other videos like this that are up, one little insight that I hope can make a global transformation. And if you get this, you can be what most women would consider, wow, that was the best sex I ever had in my life, the best lover that they've ever been with, like immediately after watching this video. That's possible. I'm just telling you right now, that's possible. So I'm going to give you this tip, and the first thing you're going to notice is, hey, I think I've heard that somewhere before. So I just want you to know that you probably have. This is not that uncommon a tip, but what you're usually missing is the explanation. Understanding why it works is what makes, I mean, you could just do it. You could try it out, the tip, and probably you'll be better. If you've heard this tip before, you tried it out that night with your woman, you were like, wow, that was great sex. It actually does work just by kind of listening to the flat advice. But if you understand it, if you get what's going on underneath it, then you become the master of the technique, and then it actually globally informs the way that you make love. So let's get to it. Here's the tip: slow down, right? You've heard it before, like just slow the fuck down, slow down in the bedroom. Here are the reasons why and why it's going to start to make sense. Please watch this to the end, because as I go forward, it's going to layer up, and it's really when you get all of it combined that you're really going to understand why this is so powerful. Okay, first of all, you probably know that most of the time women get turned on more slowly than men. Men, you know, sometimes it takes like a second. We see, you know, beautiful set of boobs, whoop, turned on, right? But for women, they can see a beautiful, gorgeous man and go, wow, he is so hot, and not necessarily be wet, not necessarily be ready for sex, not necessarily be ready for orgasm. But, you know, a man, once he's got his erection, he's turned on. And of course, as you get older, when you're my age, it takes a little bit longer. It could take as long as 20 seconds. But for a lot of women, it's still much slower. That's why we talk so much about foreplay and the importance of foreplay. And the interesting thing is, if you just slow down, if you just kiss a little longer, undress her a little longer, do everything a little longer, you've actually done foreplay. It actually took care of the foreplay thing. Now, there are times when a woman gets turned on quickly because the whole night has been turning her on. It's like, you know, it's the third date. She thinks, well, maybe we're going to do it tonight. She's full of anticipation and craziness, right? And then by the time you get there, she's actually been foreplaying herself. It's done it for her. But most of the time, women just take longer. And so this takes care of foreplay as well. Now, the next thing that you have to understand about slowing down is that not only does it take care of foreplay, but it layers on this other piece, which is anticipation. And anticipation and teasing, right, can also be, as a totally separate technique, can be very powerfully erotic for a woman. When you go straight to the clitoris, for example, it's often kind of disappointing. That little tease, that anticipation, that building of, oh my God, when is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? That anticipation can also be powerfully erotic. That's kind of a tip itself. But again, if you imagine just this idea of slowing down, you can see that anticipation and teasing are again, they're baked into what's going on. So again, just another reason why slowing down is good. Stick with me here, because this does get even more interesting and more powerful. All right. The next piece is that at some point you might be doing something to bring her to orgasm that is pretty aerobic. Some women like some really deep, fast thrusting, and there's only so long as you can keep that going. So before you get to that aerobic stuff, if she's not turned on enough, then what happens is you might not be able to continue long enough to bring her to orgasm. Also, it may be highly erotic to you. It may be something that causes you to ejaculate too early, right? But if she's so turned on by the time you get to that point, that thing that is going to bring her to orgasm, it also might bring you to orgasm, that might require some aerobic activity from you, then, you know, you might not make it. And the other piece of this is that sometimes some women who need fast and hard, for example, penetration in order to have an orgasm, some women do, not all women. But imagine you're with a woman who's like that, who really enjoys that, or enjoys that tonight, all right? Well, what happens is if she's not turned on enough when you begin, then as you continue and you do this, it's not necessarily going to get her more and more turned on and bring her to orgasm. In fact, what happens is the sameness of it, the repetitiveness of it, at some point causes a oversaturation of her nerve endings, and it's no longer physically stimulating. Just like when you're in a really crowded, noisy place, at some point all that crowded and noisiness that was so loud when you first walked in doesn't seem that loud anymore. It kind of reaches its own level of silence, and you don't want your deep thrusting to become just a level of silencer, right? But if you slow down, you arrive to that point later, then what happens is you actually end up at a place where she's aroused enough where it can do its job. So again, the overall experience, the overall sex, much improved. Okay, before I get to the last part that really wraps this whole thing up, just a little quick piece of housekeeping, which is if you have any comments or you have any questions, you want further stuff around this, please leave a comment below. Right now, I am really into my YouTube thing and my opportunity to communicate with you here. So I'm really digging on the comments and I'm answering them. So if you have a question or a comment, please, and of course, subscribe, like, and all that stuff. It's good for me. It allows me to continue to do this juicy work on YouTube that you get for free. So that would be a big favor to me. All right, now here's the big finale. The other thing about slowing down is that it gets you to explore something, to experience something that you might have never otherwise tried, and maybe she never otherwise tried. There is something excruciatingly romantic, excruciatingly erotic, and sometimes excruciatingly orgasmic for a woman about extremely, extremely slow movement, slow thrusting. In porn, you're always seeing the fast flick of the tongue, you're always seeing the fast pounding, and women will tell you, experienced women who've been with great lovers will tell you that that is not always what does the trick. Some women don't find that particularly erotic, but here's the deeper thing, here's the big mind fuck, especially if you're younger or you date younger women. A lot of women who are in their 20s or younger, they've also watched a lot of porn. They just can't help it. It is everywhere and it infects them. And they've only been with men who watched a lot of porn and they think that's the way it's supposed to be done. These women, they scream, they writhe, they moan. When are they screaming, writhing, and moaning? During the deep, fast dicking, of course. And so they think that's what they're supposed to like. They may even like it. They may like it. They may have never experienced the possibility of an orgasm done at slow speed. And it's different and it's powerful. And for a lot of women, even women who think that what they want is that thing that they've seen in porn, the only thing that they've ever known, they think that's the way it's, even those women might find that the most powerful orgasm they have ever had in their life happens so slowly in this intense erotic moment, and it takes them by surprise, it takes them by storm, and completely rewrites her code on what's possible for her erotically. And when you experience this, it might rewrite the entire code on the things that you might find erotic, because most of us men, we have been so infected by the disinformation, the bad information of watching what turned us on in video, but may or may not be what turns us on the most when we're actually the one who's making love and not the one who's watching it. And it really is different. It really is different. What's erotic to watch, what's erotic to do, what's pleasurable to watch, what's pleasurable to do are not always the same thing. And this is a huge insight. And you can only get it, you can only feel it, you can only know it in yourself if you slow the fuck down.